Well, hello everyone. To all the women who are over 40 and entering perimenopause, you don't know sometimes what's going to hit you, right? Night sweats, hot flushes, all kind of suddenly symptoms. Well, we want to talk about natural remedies today. What can help you? Norelle is here with me. She is a naturopath joining me live from Australia. Thank you so much, Norelle.
Thank you. Great to be here and talking about this very important topic that, well, every woman will go through menopause, perimenopause. So it's definitely good to have some strategies in terms of how to manage it.
All right. Well, I'll just let you talk about different remedies, natural remedies that can help women when they're going through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, so I'd say the first thing to kind of, before even getting to the remedies themselves, is to look at some of the foundational health factors that can really exacerbate hot flushes. So it's really important going through at any time, but especially going through the perimenopause transition, to, have a healthy diet. In particular, I find managing blood sugar is really important at this time of life. We naturally become a little bit, less sensitive to insulin as we transition through into menopause. So it's really important to have a diet that supports, blood sugar balance. So that really means, cutting back on the sugar, simple carbs, and putting in lots of the complex carbs and things like that. I think there's some research that says if you've got a more high sugar diet, your hot flushes can be 33% worse, and I'm sure no one wants that. So diet's really foundational. The other two factors that I find are really important is to make sure you move your body. So exercise, regular exercise can really help. It helps with so many things. But there's some, beautiful research, especially on yoga for hot flushes. So if you sort of like that kind of exercise, that's something definitely to think about incorporating into your life. But simple things like just regularly going for walks in nature are also going to be beneficial. You don't, if yoga is not your vibe, then, there are many other ways to support it. Generally, in terms of exercise, you're sort of looking to not be doing too much high intensity, hardcore exercise, especially if your hot flushes are pretty bad, because they'll probably make it a bit worse. So sort of that more gentle exercise can be quite beneficial. The final sort of thing in that foundation that is stress. Stress can really exacerbates everything when we're feeling stressed, but hot flushes, it will really trigger those quite a bit, because as your ovaries, you drop off hormone production in your ovaries through the perimenopause transition, you do make up a little bit with your adrenals. So, but if your adrenals are busy being super stressed and producing lots of the stress hormones, they're going to have less capacity to give you that little bit of the extra estrogen, progesterone that will help sort of even out the bumps. So certainly stress management is a big component of that. So sort of that's the foundation sort of in lifestyle things.
So these are very general guidelines, right? Exercising, diet, yoga. I would like you to go a little bit more specific, right, as to what kind of a diet. You talked a lot about diet, talking about complex carbohydrates, but is there any other type of vegetables, to maintain the blood sugar? We go through fluctuations. Should we increase the cruciferous vegetables? So I just want us to go a little bit more deeper into just self-prevention.
Yeah, certainly. So, those things you've mentioned, cruciferous vegetables are really important in terms of that, but just generally vegetables in general, making sure you're getting at least I know in Australia, the government recommendations are 5 serves of vegetables a day. I'm not sure where they are elsewhere, but, a minimum of 5 serves of vegetables a day, which a lot of people don't get. They sort of get around 3. So, upping the vegetable intake, upping the fruit intake, pulling back on alcohol is a big one. So, either you're pulling it back entirely. That can make a massive difference in terms of hot flushes. And, or moderating it down to no more than one standard drink a day with 2 alcohol-free days a week is what I advise a lot of my clients to do with that. Generally, I find at this time that to reduce the amount of animal protein can be beneficial, especially when you consume it at night. Protein tends to be a bit thermogenic, which means heat raising in the body. So switching to more plant-based proteins, so your legumes and lentils, they also have things in them that work on the estrogen receptors. So you might have heard of phytoestrogens mentioned. So that can be beneficial with things like alfalfa. Soy can be useful, but you need to be sort of mindful of choosing organic, non-GMO type soy. In Australia, most of it is non-GMO, but that might not be the case elsewhere in the world. So, yeah, essentially just pulling out a lot of, refined sugars, boosting the vegetables, and switching to more plant-based protein, less animal-based protein, depending on what kind of diet you're following, of course. So, yeah.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about the herbs. I was reading a research on black cohosh, some of the other herbs that women, should they take that by themselves? What is the research that talks about it? Does it really help? Those kind of things.
Yeah, I find herbal medicine is, especially for this kind of thing, it can work really well. Things like black cohosh, and there's some simple remedies that most people can probably take themselves. But I think when you get into it, herbal medicine works best when you're working with a herbalist or naturopath that can do a formulation that suits your specific needs. And I find that women's needs change because perimenopause can go from like 5 to 8 years, the transition. And there's different kind of symptoms, severity throughout that change. So having a trusted healthcare practitioner that can guide you through that and what your needs are with that is really helpful. So black cohosh is a herb that's it's kind of almost known as the menopause herb, but we shouldn't really shoehorn herbs into a type of thing. It does a lot of other things. It's not, people often mistakenly say that it's estrogen containing. It does not contain estrogen. It's thought that it may work in a couple of ways. Again, a bit like a phytoestrogen, it may stimulate mildly estrogen receptors in the body. So that might mean if you've got any history of hormonal cancers, breast cancer especially, that might be something you would only use under supervision of a practitioner. I would not be self-prescribing in those situations. But it is, and then also think it might work on serotonin receptors as well. So there's a few different things. It's been has a long history of traditional use. I often combine it with St. John's wort and St. Mary's thistle as a sort of a baseline, tonic for that. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of different scope with herbs. I look at supporting the liver, which becomes a big thing that we need to do. And there's some recent research on St. Mary's thistle, or milk thistle, as it's sometimes called, and that helping reduce hot flushes after about 12 weeks of use. So it's one I often consider in my formulas. In terms of sort of the more stuff you can DIY, one that's known for hot flushes is sage, and sage works quite well as a tea. But you need to do it cold. If you have hot sage tea, that will make hot flushes worse. So sage tea can be helpful. It's something that I find I get women to just use it when you don't need to take it all the time, because sage is quite drying. And look, menopause is kind of a bit of a drying, as women who've gone through all know that dryness is a really kind of big thing, dryness everywhere. So you don't want to be taking sage tea all the time, only to deal with the hot flushes as needed. And I've got various blogs and that sort of give you the detail on how to make sage tea and that. So that's one that's most people can tolerate pretty well, unless, of course, you've got an allergy to the salvia family of plants. So other ones that I like that can be really useful for hot flushes, especially night sweats, is lemon balm. It's from the mint family, lovely lemony taste. It's helpful also for digestion and sleep. It's particularly good for if you're getting those night sweats, or even not sweats per se. A lot of women say they don't sweat, but they just feel like they get really warm, in the night, and it wakes them up. So that is a nice cooling herb and supports sleep as well. So they'd be the two I'd start with in terms of tea. Red clover can also be useful. That I probably find it not as much useful, just from my experience, but a lot of women do find that useful as well. So
well, quite a big list of what you just shared with us. It's a really good list. And the thing is there anything like women, and you talk about the sage tea, so women can take it by themselves, right? Some of the other herbs they should really consult with someone like yourself, like a naturopath. Anything else you want to add for women to take care of their hot flushes?
No, really just sort of focus on, I would sort of say at the first thing, even before getting to herbs, focus on your underlying health and well-being, and that is the foundation. And the herbs can come on the top to just sort of even out the spikes. And also, some women do tend to get, for various different reasons, none of this stuff will work. I do have cases with that. So don't be afraid to work with a good doctor to look at hormone replacement therapy as, potentially just because especially with, there's sort of some bioidentical stuff that can be quite good, especially to help with sleep, and that if you're really just not getting sleep, it's really hard to sort of look after yourself if you're dragging yourself through the day. So sometimes I actually have to kind of counsel women to consider, because they sort of, there's horror stories from 20 odd years ago about hormone replacement therapy, but that's not where it is today. And, as something when nothing else has worked, I, do also sort of say to talk to, your doctor, and, they'll be able to address all your concerns, but don't rule it out if you need just temporarily to, be able to do all those other things to support your health and make you feel better through this transition, which is a natural transition, and we'll all go through it. So yeah, I'm very passionate about making sure we're advocating.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This is a quick 10 to 15-minute session that we bring on a daily basis, really educating women. We are focused on women's health, women 40 and above, because we feel that that's a segment that's a little bit ignored. Everyone focuses on the pregnancy and beyond, and the mom. And then once you're still a mom, but after that, we just forget about women, what women go through, and that's what we are focused on. Any last comments from you before I wrap up? I really want to thank you for all your support to making this a success, because we are creating an amazing resource and a platform for women over 40.
Yeah, no, what you're doing is so important, and it's great for women to be able to have this resources, because sometimes it's just that, you don't know that there's other options out there. So yeah, I do encourage all women to explore those options and know that, you can go through this transition with it all being, not as bad as it's sort of made out to be. We need to change the narrative around that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Keep supporting us. We are launching our programs in January, specifically for women's health. So keep giving the feedback to us and keep supporting us. With that, thank you so much. Have a great week. Thank you, Nara.